This
All
is
right.
Kevin Pruitt on another episode of Rising Tide Startups podcast, and my special guest today is Sydney Lester. Sydney, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So give us the quick background. Who is Sydney Lester?
Sure. Well, right now I am the founder and CEO of ChicStripes, which is a personal wardrobe styling company. I currently live in Richmond, Virginia with my husband and our three cats. I
One of
have a
which is very close.
Yes, there's a Siamese wandering around down here somewhere. So if they come up, that may happen. They like to sit on my lap while I'm trying to work and then I can't work.
That's
But
all right.
I actually have a master's. So my background is I have a master's in social work and a master's in Christian education, and had a great 5-year plan of what I wanted to do. And I'm not doing that now at all, but it's still like a really awesome path that I found myself on. And so I think that it's been a fun adventure so far. So it's definitely not what I thought I would be.
Well, we'll touch on that a little more later in the interview, but so give us an elevator pitch on what is ChicStripes.
Yes. So ChicStripes is a full-service personal styling company that helps women create sustainable and timeless wardrobes that work for them, not against them. ChicStripes also does workshops, style workshops, social media workshops, corporate workshops. We do a lot of work around dress codes and helping people kind of navigate what that looks like. And then an arm of the business is Beyond, which is a group coaching program and one-on-one coaching for other aspiring personal stylists. So really basically kind of giving them some of those business things that I learned in creating my business, which is now full-time, and really helping them make that leap into doing that.
Okay. And this is mainly through, it's online, mainly through blog. Is that kind of your main spine through the business?
Yes. Yes and no. So I started out as a blog back in 2009, and I don't actually blog very much now because I'm doing the work, but I have a website and social media presence. And so I would say a lot of kind of just the spine of everything is just the intermingling of like the website and the services, and then the social media and how that kind of just all intertwines for marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's step back a little bit. You said you had, your background was not this. It was, master's in Christian education, other education. What was kind of the turning point? How did you shift to this particular business?
Well, the short version is that my company eliminated my position. And at that point I was like, all right, let me try working for myself. But before that, it was definitely a longer path of kind of a buildup of having, going to grad school, graduating, getting a job in the mental health, substance abuse field after grad school. And then I had the blog as like a creative side hobby that I was just doing and having fun with. And so really from the period of 2009 when I started the blog in 2016, I was working a full-time day job in mental health. I was doing nonprofits, board development, grant writing, that kind of thing, and then very much doing the blog and taking outfit photos. And that sort of kind of morphed into more of the styling and learning styling as a business. And I was able to go and get a certification for that because it was important to me that I wasn't just a blogger that liked to shop or, was into fashion, but that I had some sort of credentials behind that. And so I kind of was doing them both dually at the same time. I also started freelancing on my own. So I had a full-time day job, doing my part-time styling business, and I was freelancing with clients, helping them write grant applications for nonprofits. And so when my company eliminated my position in 2016, I knew I didn't want to go back to a desk job. I really just wasn't passionate necessarily about doing things for other people per se. I just wasn't connected to that work. And so I said, well, if I'm going to give it a go, let me just try and give it a go. And so that was really kind of what pushed me into it. And I was very much splitting my time, probably more so leaning heavily on the grant writing side of things because it was pretty consistent. I had some retainer clients and I kind of knew what money was coming in, whereas with styling, it was pretty inconsistent, kind of some a la carte stuff. And I was able to kind of flip that eventually, which I think we probably will get into. But yeah, I'll probably talk about it if we talk about the low point of my business.
Well, you had a nice long runway from say
It
2009 to say 2000, what,
it
16?
was definitely, yes, that was very nice in terms of just social media buildup,
Right.
and to some extent, people kind of knowing who I was in terms of at least like the entrepreneur and like the creative communities. But I still find today when it comes to the everyday person, they'll still ask me, like, oh, I didn't realize this was a job. Like, I didn't even know there were people like you. So there's definitely still, I think, a lot of even education
Sure.
for just that normal everyday person. But it did help me a lot by being able to kind of do the slow build of
Hmm.
testing things out. And I had a mentor for kind of my first year, and she really helped me flip it from being a blog to more of a professional website,
Right.
and gave me a lot of kind of those building blocks that I needed. So I wasn't by any means like prepared for my job to be eliminated. If people advise like, oh, quit your job, like have a 3-month runway and like have money, like I was just kind of thrown into it. But
Yeah. Went in on a Friday and they called you in the office and said, I
yeah,
got
I think it
some.
was like a Tuesday or something. But and I was ready. I was ready to go. We had just kind of like our paths were diverging.
Sure.
And I got severance that way
Yeah.
because they let me
Exactly.
go versus me quitting, right? So that was nice.
Yeah. Again, that's
But
another runway, another kind of soft landing that you can, severance is can kind of carry you through that transition period. But yeah, I mean, you brought it
yeah,
up, so let's talk about the low point of your
yeah.
of your
So
business.
it was definitely so. April 2016 was when I started working for myself,
Hmm.
freelancing in my business. And then it was definitely November, December 2016 when I just was not making any money. I was pulling from our savings to pay myself. And my husband had to have like a heart to heart and be like, you're gonna have to get a job. Like if
This
this
is
is
not a
not gonna work
sustainable
out,
plan.
like right. He's like, isn't gonna work. So I was like, okay, I'll just like look for a grant writing job. Like that'll be easy. I know how to do that. It'll be consistent income. So pretty much between like November and like March of 2017, like I was putting in applications. Like we were paying the bills, but but I was like, I still need something else. So I ended up getting a part-time grant writing job. And I went in and I hated it. And I came home and I said, I know I just got this job, but I really don't like it. Can I quit?
Was this day one?
And it was pretty much day one. I was like, I don't like this. And I think I did
Yeah.
a week or 2 weeks, and then I put in a 2-week notice.
Yeah.
And so I was gone within like 3 weeks. So it just like, it didn't feel right. It was very like at a desk. And I guess I had gotten a little bit used to like not being at a desk
Sure.
and, doing things on my own time. And it just didn't really necessarily feel rewarding. I don't think I was connected to the organization and to the
Right.
mission. And so I knew at that point I wasn't going to be doing my best work anyway, if that wasn't the case. But it was also a turning point for me to say like, okay, I know I don't want to do this. So what do I have to do to make this other thing work?
Yeah, I was thinking that as you were explaining that, thinking that was just an added confirmation that this is exactly the path you were supposed to be on. Because I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we need that extra, measure of that this is it. Stay the course. It may be tough in the short run, but stay the course. So,
Yeah.
well, I hate to end on a low note. I mean, you obviously have come out of that. So what's
Yes.
what's the antithesis of that? What's the high point of your business since you launched?
Yeah, so I would say the high point has definitely been me going full time in my business in September of last year. So in May of 2017, I was working with a mentor and a business coach, and she really helped me figure out kind of my packages and like pricing and really help get that to almost just a sustainable model. So
Right.
instead of doing a la carte, which was very one off and just all over the place, I moved to more of a package program,
Sure.
so where it's a higher dollar amount, and it was just a better purchase all around. Like it was a better experience for the client because they were getting the full service versus just coming in and then not ever doing the next step or whatever the case was. And so that was definitely the turning point for me, was just a big package kind of that I could sell, that would be a good amount of money. And then at the end of August, I was able to tell my last freelance grant writing client that I was leaving, and able to go full time in my business with the mix of my one-on-one styling clients, doing workshops, and then I introduced my coaching program for other clients, other stylists in the fall. So I still have a good mix of income streams and things that I've built, but it's all at least under my business, my umbrella. now. So that was definitely the highlight of actually saying, oh, I can do this. Like
that light came on.
It can work. Like people can like turn what you think is a hobby that can never be a full-time business into a business. Like it does happen.
Well, I sent you before the interview. I sent you a kind of a general guideline of questions that we wanted to follow, and I said in there was a caveat that said, we can chase rabbits if there's something that you say that really is kind of the light comes on in the interviewer's mind. That I think that we really want this podcast to be very helpful for our listeners. And it's, I mean, the nice thing about podcasts is evergreen. So it's like a library. It can be on there for a long time, and people can go back and listen to the early episodes. But I really want you to kind of unpack a little bit for our listeners what was the shift? What were some of the main things that you did, once you had that second, kind of grant writing job and you quit that and you said, I'm all in now. I'm burning the boats. We're on land. There's no turning back. So what were some things that you did that were really profitable, that really, not necessarily from a financial standpoint, but really grew your business quickly? And you thought, hey, these are things, if I'd have done this 6 months ago, I'd have been much further ahead. So that you think it would help our listeners?
Yeah, so I would definitely say two things for sure. One is having a business coach / mentor to really help you strategically just think about ways you can do things differently, and to really kind of challenge your viewpoints on things of thinking, well, just because it was done traditionally this way, why do you have to do it that way? Why can't you do it bigger and better?
Now your coach was asking these questions to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And just every time I've worked with a coach or, someone that is a little bit ahead of me, they are consistently challenging even just my own insecurities about running a business, whether that's, I've only been doing this for a couple months. Like, can I really charge this much money? Or, like, who am I to create this program? Like, there's all these, I think, fears and anxieties and insecurities that do come up. And so a coach is kind of, or, whoever, someone that can kind of help lead you, they can help you, like, look at those things for what they are and say, like, no, you do have experience. Like, you've been doing this for like 9 years, and why can't you create this program? It's going to help people. And so I think that has definitely been instrumental for sure in making that switch. And then I think so I guess maybe three things: the coach, my own decision in my head of saying, I've decided I'm going to do this. And I think that is key to actually almost kind of make that decision and make that declaration of speaking it and saying it out loud, and then having people hold you accountable. And then definitely the third thing was what? It was in my head. Letting go of that safety net. Letting go of that last grant writing job was, for me, I didn't really want to do it. I mean, it was a good retainer. It was like $2,000 a month. It was pretty easy. But it was taking up space that I knew that once it was gone, bigger and better things would fill that space. And that while it was still there, I couldn't do the things I wanted to do as fully. So that was definitely a scary thing to kind of say. I'm basically like getting rid of this free money. But it was something that was really necessary. And I always think that I like to look back and say, oh, well, if I had just, in April gone full in, quit everything, had a coach, dedicated myself to my business, like maybe I could have been where I am now way sooner. But I don't necessarily regret going through the process.
Sure. Yeah.
And like, because I think a lot of times there is this thing where people say, oh, well, like you have a passion and you have a drive for it. Like you should just quit your job tomorrow and go all in. And I think that can work fine for some people, but at the same time, for me personally, I was like, I still needed to pay the bills, and like help support the family income. So I couldn't really just quit. Right. Like that wasn't, a realistic time frame. And I think it's important for people too, to not necessarily look almost at those like shiny objects or people quitting and jumping into the next big thing, because they don't know their personal situation and they can't compare. There's a quote that says like, you should never compare your beginning to someone else's middle or, someone else's end.
That's good advice.
I think there's a lot of kind of that in this whole, like starting your business and being an entrepreneur is everybody wants to be like here all the time, like really quickly, but it takes time.
Right. And I think as you were talking, I'm thinking, how many times have you read, somebody is starting out on Facebook and said, hey, just go all in, just follow your dream, chase your dreams. Well, if you're fresh out of college with no college debt and you have so little expenses, that's one thing. But if you have a family,
right.
if you have a mortgage, right. I mean, everyone has a different situation that they're in, and you're trying to leverage against that. But I love those three. I mean, but tell me on number one. So how did you go about finding your coach?
So
because there's a lot of charlatans out there.
Yes. So Richmond, I think, is pretty unique in terms of just the creative entrepreneur culture that we have. And so there's actually a program through the Greater Richmond Chamber called Thrive, and it provides free small business mentoring to people with small businesses in Richmond. So they have a network of mentors, people who have started successful businesses and who are available to kind of mentor and coach and help other people along the way. So my very first mentor was from there, because I cleaned out her closet and she was like, I can help you. Like, I can help you make this business, like, get it off the ground and going. And so she was my very first mentor, and I worked with her for about a year. And the great thing about that program is it is free to the people getting mentored. The mentors do get a small stipend to compensate them for their time, but it's just really awesome advice. And so my second coach, the one that really kind of helped me figure out the packages, so I knew her personally. I knew she was a mentor in Thrive. And she had her own coaching business as well. But so it just kind of happened to where we ran in the same circles, and, she was just on maternity leave. I think she was bored and I had a problem. And so she was like, I can help you.
Just good timing.
But yeah, I mean, it worked out really well. And yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think it can be hard to find good coaches that know what they're talking about. For sure. And so I've kind of been fortunate where the coaches I've worked with have either been my friends or they've come highly recommended from other people, or, I haven't, I have done some online programs from other kind of coach people that are known in the coaching world.
Right. But there's a track record there. I mean, it's not some unknown person on Facebook that just says, for $300, I can change your life. So
yes, and I think there are a lot of, there's at least people starting to do more of that that don't necessarily have experience, but they're saying they're a coach. So again, like, even going back to me getting the fashion credentials, I think it is important for, if you are going to do a coach or a mentor, that they have some sort of credentials, or they at least have experience, right? They at least need to have done what you want to do and be a little bit further along than you.
I like a 22-year-old life coach. I mean, that sounds like a contradiction in terms for some reason.
Yes. Yeah.
So I certainly agree with that. So, tell me, what are one or two things that have been kind of big rocks or obstacles or hurdles that you would say, you're still kind of encountering that maybe our listeners could speak into, to help you, raise that, like, all boats rise in a rising tide. So that's kind of the whole idea of the podcast is, what can we all do collectively to help each other out? So give me one or two things that you think would be, that they could maybe speak into, offer feedback as well.
Oh, okay. Here it is. I was scrolling down to where my notes were. So I think one of the things I had written down was thinking bigger than myself. What do I mean when I type that? Not doing it all alone. I think this goes back to the coaching thing, because a lot of times when you are in your own business, you just get very entrenched in doing the business and not thinking about how do you work on the business.
Yeah, it's working in the business, not on it. Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be a coach. I mean, there's a term now, it's called like biz besties, where you have basically just like a friend of yours and like you both own a business and you can bounce ideas off of one another. So I have I have a friend that basically is my biz bestie, and like we talk about things all the time. And, just having, I think, that community though of people is really important, because when you do run a business, sometimes you are by yourself. And I think people run businesses because they like to be by themselves and they're good at being by themselves. But then you do miss being able to grow and have the feedback from other people, which is probably usually always going to make you grow quicker or faster, or, get further along than you would by yourself.
Right.
And so I wrote that. Why did I write that as a pain point? Probably because, I mean, I still very much, even though I have kind of coaches, I think sometimes I resist hiring people when I need to delegate things. You know, like a virtual assistant or someone to help me with social media,
Sure.
or, you know, someone to do my bookkeeping. It's like I can do those things, but it might not be the best use of my time. And I think that's another thing we run into as business owners is like we just do it all, and
Right.
you can't do it all.
Right.
So you have to just get over wanting to be a cheapskate, or, you know, like feeling like you have to be in control of it and delegate that out.
And it is a balance. I mean, there are times you can do things today that you probably couldn't do 12 months ago. You know, that you, as your
Yeah.
revenue reaches a new level, it's a higher level. I mean, you have the freedom to do some things that you couldn't do when you first started out. So, but it's, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
interesting that it's some form of this question almost every podcast, whether it's the time balance, whether it's the delegation balance, whether it's the, you know, how do you, I mean, there was one lady that asked about, or that mentioned loneliness, the loneliness of being a solo startup, you know.
Yeah.
And one of our listeners wrote in and talked about how they sometimes leave like WebEx or Skype or Zoom on, and they're, you know, it's like a virtual workspace, you know, so they're working with their biz bestie, you know,
Yeah.
as the video's rolling. So, it's interesting.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what would be the second obstacle that you think you
Yeah.
face?
So I wrote down customer service. Not that I necessarily think my customer service is bad, but I think things can always improve. And I think sometimes we forget that customer service piece sometimes, or like we forget how we should, like we always want to improve on the systems in our business, or,
Right.
you know, we always want to make things easier for us. And sometimes we forget about making things better and easier for the customer. And so that's something that I'm kind of definitely very focused on this year, of whether it's just having client gifts or, you know, referrals for people that refer clients to me, having gifts for people that refer clients to me, and even just making kind of the service touch points better, like, you know, just preempting, because sometimes in my business, like there'll be a couple weeks before a touch point with my client, but me trying to preempt that and just say, hey, I'm working on this, you're going to get it on X date, so that
Sure.
they have an expectation. And I think that's something that you just kind of, I'm sure some people it's very natural, but for other people it takes a little more like systems or things like that, to really kind of think about that. Because at the end of the day, if you do have the great customer service, you're going to get the good testimonials, and you're going to get the good referrals, and you're going to get more business. And a lot of times I think we just skimp on that side of things sometimes.
Right. I mean, in my day role, I'm the team leader of our product management. So, one thing we talk about a lot is how to reduce friction in the customer experience. I mean, how do you make this a much smoother entry into our you know, environment, I guess. And it's interesting that you would talk, because I mean, I'm kind of getting the same type of vibes that you were, you know, as you were describing that is similar to the things we try to look at. You know, what's the, you know, how do you really create a good customer experience? You know, because you're exactly right. I mean, we have a very short window, very small window of time to really make that good first impression. If you don't, it's sure hard to recover from that.
Yeah.
So.
And then I think the balancing with that is the almost balancing the time and the boundaries.
Yeah.
And not feeling necessarily like you have to reply like right away, like 5 minutes after they email you, like you can have some boundaries, but then, you know, making sure it's all still just, and finding the balance, right, between that awesome high quality customer service and then your own sanity boundaries.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I should not be answering this on my phone laying there in bed.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah. Because then I always like to think about like whatever that client does for work, hopefully they're not answering like their, you know, work emails at 3. I don't know. Some people probably do, but
they may.
It's not how my business rolls. I've been in bed for a couple hours by then.
That's exactly right.
Like 5 hours. Yeah.
Well, as we're kind of heading toward the final section of the interview, let's take a little deeper dive and really get inside the head of Sydney Lester here. So, tell me one person that you would follow online that really inspires you, that we may know or we may not know.
Yeah. So the person I wrote is Melissa Hartwig. If you're familiar with the Whole30 program,
Uh-huh.
she is the co-creator of that. And so essentially Whole30, for people that may not know, is a lifestyle change where you eliminate for 30 days dairy, grains, beans, alcohol, and sugar. And the idea is to reintroduce foods that really work
All
well
the
for
things
you.
that are fun.
Right. But what I like about her and why I like following her online is just the community that she's created. And she's someone I think that always has really great customer service. But she's also very real and honest about what her boundaries are. And like, she doesn't apologize if she's not on social media, and she keeps her very like intimate private life private. And is just honest about those boundaries. And for the most part, people respect that and they like it. And she has just grown a very strong community. And everything she creates in terms of her services and her books are a direct byproduct of what people are essentially telling her they need or what support they could use. And so she's only just cementing, that relationship with her customers every time she creates something. And then she's really fun to follow. She has a quirky sense of humor. And she has a lot of good workout tips. I always try them and then doesn't work as well as her, but
well, that's interesting. That will be in the show notes, and I'll also list the website that you referenced there. So, what's a life quote that you like to live by that I'm sure is probably taped up somewhere by your laptop, on the wall?
Yes, so this is on my laptop screensaver, and it's in my like daily notes. So anytime I look at my to-do list, it's there. But it's by Thoreau, and it's "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have always imagined."
Wow.
I just really like that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times, you do, and even when I started out, I would have never, literally in 100 years, imagined me working full-time in my personal styling business when it was a hobby.
It's quite a leap.
Yeah.
It's quite a leap. As you were talking about the blog, I'm thinking 2009. Man, you were on the cutting edge of blogs in 2009.
I was, but I didn't monetize it like you see the other bloggers do. Mostly because when I found my niche and my stride, I was shopping a lot of secondhand and thrift stores. And that's kind of what I focus on my blog. And then you couldn't really monetize your thrift store finds because there was only one of them. So yeah, I definitely was at the beginning of all the blogs. But
that's a testimony just to your continued, just sticking with just your perseverance. That's light years in internet time. From 2009 to 2018, that's a long time.
That is a long time.
4 MacBooks.
I think, yeah.
5
I think
iPads.
Also, though, recognizing like pivoting and like changing course and, like not necessarily like when I first started my blog, I was reviewing fashion runway shows and talking about models and, like it was just very different. And over time, it just shifted as it needed to shift. Like I, never really got stuck in one thing, but just kind of really used and shifted it as I grew and, as the internet grew and all of those things.
That was probably a survive. You had to do that to survive.
You have to. Yeah. It didn't feel necessarily like survival, at the time, but
more responding to the market.
It was just natural. Yeah.
So tell me, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to just make sure our listeners knew about ChicStripes and about Sydney Lester? And I just want to make sure that we give you ample time to share what you wanted to share. And
well, yeah, I know I talked about hiring or getting mentors or coaches a lot, but I would also say hire an accountant.
Don't do QuickBooks on your own necessarily.
No. Yeah. I've been kind of Excel spreadsheeting it, and that's not going to cut it anymore. So I think it just, at the end of the day, it saves you a lot of time and heartache and money to just invest in that professional. And for whatever reason, I think business owners put that off. They're like, I can do it. And like, that's great if you can. And like, I figured out the numbers too, but I'm like, that's just not the best use of my time.
Right. Plus, they probably know things that we don't. They know they know how, what's deductible, what's the best use of, make sure you pay taxes on a quarterly basis. All the things that we just wouldn't necessarily know, without their expertise. So tell us, where can people find you online? Where's the best place to find you or get in touch with you if they want to touch base with you more one-on-one?
Yep. I'm at ChicStripes.com
Okay.
and at ChicStripes on pretty much all social media. I love Twitter. And I'm on Instagram stories a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really fun. Facebook, I think you can search Chic Stripes. I think it's actually Sydney Lester Personal Stylist for some
Okay.
reason. But yeah, if you search Chic Stripes, it'll come up.
So
And
Pinterest?
yeah. Oh yeah, I have Pinterest too, but I don't really use it.
Yeah, and this almost like screams Instagram, Pinterest, or some for somebody
Yeah,
like me that doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about. I mean,
I know. Pinterest just annoys me. I should be using it. I should be using it to drive traffic to my website. I know. I
that
took a
was a
webinar
question. That
on
was not a
this.
chastisement.
Um, I don't have time. Like maybe I need to hire somebody to get a virtual assistant to help me whip my Pinterest into shape.
Listen
But
to episode 8. I
okay.
just had a
I don't
Pinterest
know what to
strategist on episode
Uh-huh.
8. So yeah, you guys maybe need to
The
have
universe
some
is telling me
simpatico here.
something.
Get you guys
Hmm.
together. You can be mutually beneficial to
Yeah.
each other. So
No, I think Pinterest is really powerful. I don't know. I never necessarily monetize. I never monetized the social media platforms because I never really was like a blogger per se. I always
yeah,
had services that people bought.
right.
So for better or for worse, I just didn't go down those paths. And now I'm like, I don't have time to do it. So yeah, I'll listen to episode 8
Well,
and see
Sydney,
what
it's been
Billy
a
has to
pleasure
say.
talking to you tonight. Thank you so much for just taking the time and just sharing your life story,
Absolutely.
your backstory with our listeners. And guys, it's your turn now to speak into the couple of obstacles that Sydney mentioned tonight, and just share this broadly. And Sydney, thank you again for being with us and just helping us all to, as we like to say on this, all boats rise in a rising tide. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you.